Hey there guys, Conceptual Concept 6.9 here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm out here in the mountains enjoying the last few weeks slash month and a half, 2 months of being able to get out here before it gets too treacherous with the snow. So the reason for today's video, I wanted to just have another AK discussion. Whether 762x39 is dead and whether 300 blackout has killed it. I'm personally of the opinion it has not. And I'll give you my reasons why and why I personally don't own a 300 blackout still. But there's quite a bit to go into. So the 762x39 is one of the most prolific rounds in the entire world. Over 70 countries are fielding it still. And some are renewing the contracts as well. Just based on location, stuff like that, 762x39 definitely hits harder than 5.56 or 5.45. I mean, less than 308, but you can carry a lot more ammo, so trade-offs, right? So it hits a little bit harder, and depending on the distances that you need to shoot, it might be more than ideal. It might be more than enough. One thing you can't tell here, because I'm in a really big clearing, is long range is really hard to find where I live. It's really uncommon. Like, I've had to hunt this place. I can get out to about 600 yards shooting, but I had to hunt for this. It was not like, oh my God, like they're everywhere. It's not like I live in the desert or the high deserts where it's just sagebrush and stuff like that. I live in the forest. There are valleys and prairies where I might need more distance, but it's much more likely I'm going to be involved in much closer kind of shooting. And that's probably what I should be preparing for, right? So that's the reason why these intermediate 30 caliber cartridges are really beneficial. Another thing is vegetation. 5.56 definitely gets tumbled away and gets knocked around really fast by brush versus 762x39. I have some pictures I'll insert here of targets from last year when we were doing some wood shoots, and twigs were making 5.56 rounds just tumble immediately. Which is really great when you have a clear line of sight on your target, but it's really shitty when you might have to shoot through brush, because if the target's further away and you hit brush closer to you, good chance that round's gonna tumble, maybe miss them, or lose all its energy before it gets there, right? So 5.56 is just less effective through brush, through dense vegetation than 762x39 or 300 blackout. So those are big reasons I like the cartridge, the 30 cal intermediate cartridge. And let's get into the two big ones. There's 300 blackout, which is much more recently designed, and it has the full weight of the US capitalist market behind it to really advance the technology, versus 762x39, which is really popular. It's always had dirt cheap ammo, and it has been pretty dang popular in the United States. Now, one thing we've seen that has really made the 762x39 fall out of favor for a lot of guys is the Russian ammo ban. And I like to remind people that there was a Chinese ammo ban in the 90s, maybe early 2000s. I'll get the exact date and annotate it somewhere here. And the same thing was said then. How are we going to get this cheap ammo to shoot 762x39? Well, Russia filled that need. And again, we've got 70 plus countries fielding this. And we're seeing the prices come back down because these countries are starting to fill this void, because there's this great money pit, and anywhere people can make money, they're going to try to. So we're getting imported ammo from multiple different countries. Azerbaijan, I really like the Tela ammo. We're getting it from Bulgaria, from Serbia, some other countries, and the price is coming back down. Right now, it's pricing about 50 to 100 bucks cheaper than 5.56. Now, this is for cheap steel-cased ammunition, but it's still coming down. So I don't think that's killed it. I think it'll just take time for the market to fill that hole, and so prices will come back down. So past that, another thing people talk about is that 300 blackout is capable of shooting subs and supers, and absolutely it is. So 300 Blackout, it has the full weight of the US capitalist market behind it, and so it has a lot of support there. But a lot of people will tell you you've got to have 2 different zeros and you have to adjust your gas system. So a lot of ARs, you tune it for one or the other, it's not both. Now there are specialty rifles that can have tweaks in the gas fairly quickly, and you might need 2 optics. Now you can definitely get into more expensive optics like that crazy like $4,000 or $8,000 SIG optic that can shift between sub and supersonic ammo, but for most of us who don't have $4,000 to $8,000 to drop on an optic, we'll just run 2. So most of the time people will talk and tell you that you're going to go one or the other. And what I hear a lot of people talk about, and something that drives me a little nuts, and this is probably just opinion, just a pet peeve, and I might even be wrong, is people talk about 300 Blackout and they're like, oh, I'm only going to shoot subsonics. That's it. Well, you're welcome. You just bought yourself a slightly better PCC, a pistol caliber carbine. That ammo is 4 or 5 times more expensive. Not a great win in my opinion. If you want a subsonic only rifle that gets Hollywood quiet, just buy a 9mm carbine and get 147 grains and throw a can on it. I mean, your ballistic difference is negligible. It's very small. And so I just run PCCs. And in terms of 30 cal stopping power, in terms of having that supersonic, that harder hitting round, 7.62x39 achieves the same thing as 300 Blackout. In fact, it has a little more oomph just because the weight of the projectiles and the velocity it travels in. Also, 7.62x39 is a tapered cartridge. They're both tapered. I know you guys don't get your panties in a bunch, but I guess a more conical cartridge. So it feeds in more easily. There's less friction on feeding and extracting. It's able to be a little more reliable. There's less drag. It's able to run the seal cases reliably as well. So 7.62x39 has a few things going for it there, as well as the ammo's cheaper. I know AAC makes some 300 Blackout ammo, and I have mixed feelings on that. My own experience with AAC ammo has been suboptimal. I plan to revisit it in the near future and do an ammunition comparison with a few different brands and just see how it does again. Because the 7.62x39 AAC, when I got it, it was the worst performing, even under Tula. So past that, 300 Blackout I really think is only successful because it fits better in an AR magwell. I don't think it offers any performance advantages with similar ammunition to 7.62x39. The ammunition is definitely more expensive, and it's just not there yet. Maybe it will be. And lastly, the biggest reason, the number one reason that I do not own a 300 Blackout, and part of this is because I'm a dumbass and I don't trust myself, but I do not own a 300 Blackout because it fits in a 5.56 chamber. The Russians, when they made 5.45, had the foresight. Now, Russian firearm technology has wavered in being smart and dumb, but they had the foresight with 5.45 to make sure 7.62x39 could not fit in the chamber, right? And the simple reason for that is if one of those rounds finds its way into the smaller bore cousin, it's gonna blow the gun up. So working at the gun shop I worked at, I've seen probably close to a dozen 5.56 ARs blow up because a 300 Blackout snuck its ugly little head into a magazine, and that magazine got shoved in the 5.56 AR, blew it up. And even still, some of these people are people who actually shoot pretty regularly and have told me they take precautions to try and keep this away. But there's always that risk. You're not paying attention, you're really tired. One of my friends, it was his son who was, teenage son was out shooting with him, loading magazines, accidentally wasn't paying attention, grabbed a 300 Blackout round, popped it in the magazine. Now that's a serious risk. It adds logistical complications to your kit, to your gear, and to your overall setups that I'd rather not play with. It's seriously a danger. That being said, if you have a excellent plan, excellent you oversight and make sure that it never happens, not a problem. So take what I'm saying and just at least heed it as a warning. Be careful with it. Because if you are, it's never gonna treat you wrong, right? But if you aren't, and if you make that mistake just once, you blow your gun up. And that's just not a danger, a risk that I wanna have in my life-saving kit. Doesn't mean you're wrong for liking 300 Blackout. Just for me, I get the exact same performance out of a PCC. Well, the PCCs, I get close to the same performance out of the PCC with way cheaper ammo. And I get the exact same performance, again, for way cheaper ammo with the 7.62x39. So why I don't own a 300 Blackout is it just boils down to I don't want to take the risk. And I don't see a big enough gain in having one, aside from just being able to swap uppers on an AR. I don't see a big enough gain to having one that I don't get with a 7.62x39 and a PCC. And so that's why I stick with 7.62x39. I'm not going to run a 300 Blackout. I've had one, but I just don't think it's worth the risk. Not right now anyways. If they would change the cartridge just slightly to fix that fatal flaw, maybe I'd be convinced otherwise, but until then, I'll be running this guy. A lot of discussion here. None of this is a jab at anyone else. This is just my own perspective, my own point of view. And so take it with a grain of salt. If you want to take it as advice, do. If you don't. But past that, don't forget to go outside, enjoy nature's beauty, and touch that booty. All right, guys?